I got. I'm lucky I have the two Thomas Sheridan channels, and because they're taking so many videos down now that I upload, and it's I don't know how long these Thomas Sheridan channels will be up. So I mean, them definitely the fact that there's so many thumbs down now is deliberately I'm targeted now by people who want to shut me down. They've discovered me for whatever reason, and I the tribe goes on, of course, and all that stuff. I've all, but so if this channel goes down or the other Thomas Sheridan channel goes down, they don't end your entire accounts. I was talking to David Cullen about it. They just take down the specific channel, so it won't affect Beyond Room 313. So that's so you got a little bit of leeway. I actually I left the chat on there this morning. I can't read. I don't have my glasses, but I hope you're all well. So the video yesterday was immediately taken down. Some gentleman did upload it and put it on BitChute on his own channel. You can only back up one channel at a time onto Odyssey, and this channel can be backed up automatically to Odyssey, but not the other Thomas Sheridan 2 channel can't. Just to be safe, subscribe to this Thomas Sheridan 2 and Beyond Room 313. And like I said, I'm not that bothered because if this went down, I would go where Gran Torino and Dave and John Waters have done, and many others have gone over to the alternative media. The thing is that I do the reason why I'm still on YouTube is because, well, Beyond Room 313 is a YouTube channel deliberately, but also even these channels, you can't fault YouTube's technology. It's a very stable platform, particularly if it is uploading live. And when I'm uploading, I'm usually in fairly remote areas or at the beach, and it's always able to find a signal somewhere to upload. So it's a reliable YouTube is a reliable platform. But as well, this is the main one. It's like I feel like we really are at wartime. Like we will stay on this. Like an old sci-fi film. We will stay on this channel until it exists like the day of the Triffids. So well, we living in the fucking day of the Triffids. That's what it feels like at the moment. But I've been mad working this weekend. I need to get a few extra quid. I want. People have asked me. People said to me about supporting me. I don't take money directly. I don't need it. I mean, I'm not against it. I know other people do that. That's their own business. I don't need it because I have like a couple of other jobs. But I do. I don't have enough for. I'm right now. I'm trying to buy a proper tripod for Beyond Room 313 films. I've got it. The tripods that I have, they're no good, and they break easily. And I want to finally get a really professional tripod. So if you do want to help me out, there is a Patreon account. That's for funding the expense account for. It's like the expenses account for Beyond 313. That's why we're getting better all the time. We're getting better software, better production stuff. It pays for all that. So if you want to throw a few quid into that, there'll be a little bit of extra there. I could probably in the next few months get a decent tripod. That's what I would love. That's what I would love, a decent tripod, like a really good tripod. Well, a good quality one that I'd need, that I can take on the road and pack, that has a decent head. It costs about €300. So if you can throw a couple of quid in the Patreon, and next month or two I can afford to buy that, I'd be very grateful, because I do. I don't have the money for that. But if you want to help me out with that. Otherwise, just watch the videos and share them. That's all I need from you all. This is all about love. That's the main thing. I don't, I'm not broke. So in my everyday life, because I've a couple of jobs, a couple of part-time jobs to take care of myself, and a few quid comes in from, not much from, well, as long as I have YouTube, and that's the royalties from books over the years still trickle in. So between that and all the jobs I have, I'm not in a bad way or anything like that. I have an okay living. It's like a as if it was working. Like I got a minimum job, minimum wage living, but I live cheap anyway. But it's when I need extra things like the tripod, that's where I have, or I want to get a new lens for the camera. That's where you could really help me, and that's the Patreon would be great for that if you could help. Now, otherwise, just I'm just glad to have you as friends. I'm glad to have the tribe. That's all. That's what keeps me happy, and especially at times like this. Now, yesterday I was in a bad way, cause it was that some. Well, actually, the culmination of the whole week. It was like that because I was getting more and more quite angry. Getting to the angry phase. But then I saw Neil Oliver's video last night, and he said, if you haven't seen it, he made it. He cut it, I would cheerfully, take risks in life, and it was just a beautiful thing he said, and it made me feel a lot better. You see, this is one of the problems we live in a pussy man world. Is people are terrified of risks, and they're afraid of their own shadow, and a lot of this comes from the health and safety thing. Like health and safety. I was talking to someone who worked on the railways in Ireland years ago, and although there was health and safety, in terms of like rules that had to be obeyed by the train company and the people who worked on the permanent way to track and signal, of course you have to have that. But now, when you work on the railways in Ireland or anywhere, there's literally health and safety rules for like putting your shoes on in the morning. A lot of this had to do with frivolous lawsuits, and health and safety was a way of covering themselves from the ambulance chasers and the lawyers. It wasn't about health and safety on the job. I mean, like in the old, I mean, when I think of some of the things I did as a teenager working in factories, they were dangerous machines and stuff. But once you were, when there was generally accidents in the factory, it was someone who came in with a hangover. Otherwise, people had they took risks. But now that doesn't exist anymore. Now everything is like, it's like, I don't know, pussy man. Everyone's afraid. Everyone's afraid of risk. And this is, I think, we in the tribe. When I said the other day, what we have, we hold. We're taking a risk, and it's a beautiful thing to take that risk. We're saying to ourselves more than anyone else that I am confident in my ability as a person to travail the present situation. Now, when you go from the moment of thinking, oh, we're up against it with the control grid, yes, we are. But when you turn that around and say to yourself, right now, I am in control and I am willing to take that risks. I am willing to not throw caution to the wind. I am willing to give it a fight. You find that psychologically you feel a lot better. You feel an awful lot better. It's like when I say to people, go to the grocery store, go to the big supermarkets and get that cheap canned food and the dried food and the dried and all the stuff that it's easy to cook and store it all up. You feel like $1,000,000 when you get home and start packing it away in your cupboard or in your boxes, because you're now in control. You've taken the risk of self-preservation rather than subjecting yourself to the whims of the psychopathic control grids ad hoc benevolence. That's the way I would describe it, okay? Ad hoc benevolence. And this is you digging your heels into the, and going, what I have, I hold. What we have, we hold. And this is important now. And it's a beautiful thing, okay? Now, this is because that feeling that you feel when you gain a small victory in a thing like this, remember, is a war of attrition. When you gain a small victory in this, is a spiritual experience. This is what we're talking about, spiritual experiences. That's a spiritual experience. That feeling you have of suddenly being, I'm not a tosser who's in terror of the latest whims of bureaucracy. I have, even if I only have a small control over my life, it's a good thing. That's a good thing. A little thing, a little thing. And it will make you much more content and less. See, stress is a terrible thing because that can make you quite ill. Lots of people who suffer from stress and are stressed out, they'll tell you that they have, skin rashes and things like that. And and even if they don't, don't get the skin rashes, they have, like me being an asthmatic. When I get stressed out, I get a bit wheezy. But that's that's an emotional thing. But then I calm down and I relax and I think of positive things and I sit down and I have a cup of tea and I feel better. There's something about a cup of tea and sitting down and relaxing and clearing your mind. That's a very beautiful thing, and it's so easy to do. You see, this is when you cherish the little things in life. One of the things I have come to appreciate is the people in my life who are on this, the tribal types in my life around me who think and act like I do. I've come to appreciate them greatly. And the same thing with little things like being able to sit down and have a cup of tea in peace and quiet is a beautiful thing. Or a cup of coffee, whatever you want, and a chocolate biscuit or a fig roll. Do not take these things for granted, because look at all the things we once took for granted and they've taken away from us and all this, right? So any little thing you can do is a spiritual battle in many, many ways. Now, this is a result of understanding how energy works. You know, when you're subjected to energy is not just physical energy, you know, kinetic energy, bodily energy. It's also psychic energy and it's spiritual energy. And you're a repository or a battery of all those things. That's why, you meet elderly folks and they're probably in a retirement home. That's something in Ireland I don't like anymore. Like in Ireland now, everyone goes into retirement communities or homes. It's gone like America that way. And Irish elderly people used to not do that, but now they're all afraid, and they all seem to want to go into these elderly communities because they don't want to take the risk of being in society on their own or with just having like around their friends and family. They're all afraid now. But you'd meet elderly people, some of them quite old, very old, and their minds would be exploding as like anything, and their eyes were full of color and sparkle. They were full of energy. The body had done its time on this earth, or was but the soul and the spirit of these people, that inner light, that inside spark, the song in their heart was singing. And this is what's so important. When we hold the line, as we hold this line, that we do, the song in our heart is as strong as ever. And that's why you listen to, you don't sit there going, "Right, I'm fighting against this, I'm like this," right? Well, in a way you are. We're talking about stoicism. We're being stoic about it, okay? And the stoicism has been born out of the fact that we've lost our Epicureanism. I don't know who said it, but you're going to say some Greek philosopher, but it was like a Russian writer who said every society starts Stoic and ends in Epicurean, and that's exactly what's happened to us. And the Epicurean thing has been taken away from the masses, from Joe Normie and us, but we in the tribe are Stoic. We are pulling fortitude from it all, and holding, and a big part of that is the simple pleasures. I read lots of books on military history, and World War I for a long time fascinated me. And I'd be reading about I read about books about the Russian, French, Prussian, Germans, the French and the British on the front lines in the Somme. All very similar stories, but they said, like, you could be in the most awful situation, and when then the relief column would come up and they would say to you, "Okay, go back," and you would go back and to the back trenches, to about a mile back. There was all kinds of, the trenches were all like roads. They went to the front, but there was relief trenches, there was supply trenches, and there was also back trenches. And there was an understanding between all the armies that you didn't shell them. You didn't shell them because that's where soldiers went to recuperate, and just to get away from the frontline trenches and patrols, which have been boring a lot of the time and wet and damp, just to sit there and have a cup of coffee or a cup of hot chocolate would be like the greatest thing in the world. And then someone would take out a guitar or a harmonica and start singing songs. And it was that they said that those little things was just wonderful. So as we hold the line, make sure to sit out, make sure to spend an evening, you know, make it have a cup of tea. If you drink alcohol, don't drink a lot. Don't drink. Just have a couple of beers or a glass of red wine, but don't go nuts. And listen to your favorite albums. I watch old comedy films. I like watching when I'm up against it and I need that kind of relief. I like watching old 1980s comedy films. I like Caddyshack with Rodney Dangerfield and things like Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. That's the kind of thing that I like to do, and I like to listen to like records, everything, the stuff I like from Susie and the Banshees, the Hawkwind, and stuff like that. I like to listen to those. I like to listen to the albums. I have a turntable, and I have the albums, and I like listening. I like putting the album on the turntable, and having a cup of tea with that. There's something beautiful about that, and so that helps me. So this is the spiritual thing. You're building spiritual fortitude. It's real healthy, and if the internet went down, well, or something like the lights went down, I still, as long as I can still walk and stuff like that, I'll go for a walk. But I have like art materials. I have my watercolor pads. I have a huge library, and there'll be stuff to do. That's another thing when you're doing storage. If you're like me, and you need reading glasses, uh, make sure to buy those. There's inexpensive, cheap reading glasses from get good ones though. There's better ones. There's the shit ones you can get in like the discount stores. But if you go to Boots or your local Irish or wherever country you live in pharmacy, for a few euros extra, you get much better quality reading glasses and store them up like things like as well as things like lighters and batteries and stuff like that. But so keep your spirits up that way. That's a huge help. And this is a spiritual thing. There is a spiritual element in all of this because a lot of this is they're burlesquing us in a way to mock us. There's a huge amount, like a lot of stuff. Like I know, like when we had at the height of the first lockdown, and we had these scandals of all these individuals who didn't obey the rules that they imposed upon the rest of us. They didn't do it because they didn't feel like they should do it. It's just like taxes. Taxes are for the little people, and they would drive by in their limos and stuff, or their sports cars, and see the rest of us all queuing up a social distance with masks on our face, and they'd be laughing at us because they were burlesquing us, just like Prospero in the Mask of the Red Death. Prince Prospero in the Mask of the Red Death, when the people were outside begging to get into his castle and saying, "We're going to get the plague. Please do something to help us." He basically said he just laughed. The wealthy looked over the wall and laughed at the peasants who were about to be killed by the plague. They were all locked. They were all socially isolated inside their castle. A very good movie. The book of that is brilliant, actually, by Edgar Allan Poe. It's a novelette. But I highly suggest, if you have not seen the film with Vincent Price, absolutely fantastic. And Jane Asher was in that too. She was Paul McCartney's first fiance. She's in that too with Vincent Price. Fantastic Roger Corman film. Highly recommend in terms of, and watch it in terms of today's world that we're living in now. And have a good look at that. And it ties up with a lot of that stuff. I don't want to talk too much about the present situation right now, because even using code words and our own kind of palaver, the YouTube algorithms, there's people squealing on me now, I was able to get around it for a long time by using the terms like needlecraft and ping pong. But now there's this now members of a certain political party with an affiliation for a, you know, shall we say, um, Middle Eastern friendships, and portraying the Irish people as pathetic victims who always need to be protected from victimhood, and deny us our belief in ourselves as warriors. Remember, around the world, you're the same. People in America, Australia, you have the blood, like Irish people, and you, like I have the blood of the Vikings in me. I have the blood of the Celtic warriors in me. I have the blood of the Gaels in me. I have the Anglo-Saxon blood as well. That's fucking serious warrior blood, and that's in there, and you all have that in different proportions. Some of you have Roman and Greek and Slavic and Nordic, and the same as the mixes I have. You have a phenomenal uh, spiritual heritage that comes with that, not just the actual, the sort of like cultural heritage, which you have phenomenal spiritual heritage. And likewise, if your ancestry is African or Middle Eastern or Native American, you carry all those warrior spirits inside you as well. And they did not pick up the sword or the battle axe or the bow and arrow and the shield in the past so we could all be pussies today. You know what I'm saying? So we could all wear, okay, let me. I'm biting my tongue here because I know I want to say this without trying to offend people that I don't know them personally, and they may have good intentions, but what do you think of most of all when you think of the health and safety making pussies of everybody? What do you think of more than anything else? The high vis vest, right? The yellow or orange safety vest. The yellow safety vest is in everyday life is you saying to yourself, I don't take risks. I have to be protected. I'm afraid. Is that a is that a sufficient uniform for a political movement designed to empower you against oppression? A a symbol of surrender. There is really no difference between a yellow safety vest and a face mask. They both come from the same aspects of I'm afraid, I'm frightened, I don't want to take risks. Now, I'm not saying that anyone involved in a particular movement involving that I'm afraid yellow safety vest are like this. They may mostly be well-meaning people. I immediately in a time when we need more than anything else for the warrior spirit, and I mean the spiritual warrior too, to come to the fore. Let me put it this way. When Cuchulainn faced Ferda and Queen Maeve and Aelle and the armies of Connacht, did he put on a yellow safety vest and say, you know, don't fight? When the 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 Hanoverians and the British Guard at Hougoumont in Waterloo saw the French Guard bursting through the gates with a hatchet and a load of bayonets, where the Huguenots, the French, so were the Hanoverians, the British and the French wearing yellow safety vests. When the RAF And the Luftwaffe did Battle in the Sky in 1940 over the English Channel, where the pilots of the Luftwaffe or the Royal Air Force wearing yellow safety vests because it might be dangerous. No, they did not wear yellow safety vests. Neither did they wear them at Stalingrad, Gettysburg, Wounded Knee. The Zulus didn't wear them when they faced off the Welsh Guards, and the Welsh Guards didn't face them off in the Transvaal. The greatest moments of human history are a product of risk, of saying, I will embrace the danger for the greater reward. When you put on the yellow vest, you're saying, I'm not taking the risk. I'm waiting for instructions. Signs and symbols rule the world, as Confucius told us. The uniform of the tribe is your everyday clothes. The regalia of the tribe is the smile on your face and the song in your heart. The strategic objective of the tribe is risk-taking. I take a risk making these videos. God bless him, Dave Cullen took a terrible price recently for the risk he makes. John Waters is mocked for what he does. Gemma O'Doherty, her name is constantly dragged through the muck. Gran Torino, all the other folks involved in this, both big and small, have all taken a risk. But look how all of them have given so many people out there hope that they're not alone in this world of madness. Even if you don't agree with them, there'll be many things with Gemma O'Doherty that I would vehemently disagree with. But at the same time too, I know she's an honest person and she's coming from convictions in her heart. She's not wearing a yellow vest. She's putting her charisma and force out there. And even though I've very little in common with that woman, I hold her convictions and her fortitude with tremendous respect. And the same for everyone involved in this. And even the people involved in an organisation involved around the yellow, I'm sure many of them are wonderful people as well. I'm not going to start slagging people off. I'm not going to say people, yes, there are certain shills we have to be aware of. And they're very easy to spot. The ones asking you to write down your name, address, and phone number on a list. And I told you where that came from. That comes directly from the Marxists, particularly SWP. The SWP are involved heavily in a political party involved in this country called People Before Profit. Under no circumstances write your name on a list. The SWP are a front for MI5, and all their subdivisions operate through that. So they're absolutely, anyone with a red flag or anyone from that side are either directly or unknowingly working on behalf of the intelligence services. So never, ever, ever put your name on a list. You know, they say, oh, we're building a mailing list so we can organize the next event. Do not do that under any circumstances. But at the same time, too, I'm just putting out there. Think about it. Life is full of risk. Now, one of the reasons you go to these big rallies is because you think the safety in numbers. Yeah, the safety in numbers for the elites, for the establishment, for the psychopathic control grid. They look at all. I believe the event in London last week developed into absolute fiasco. To the point where it was a battle of egos of who got to speak to the crowd. On top of that, the bongo bashers and all the others were all there. It developed into absolute farce, which is sad because the first events in London were full of huge numbers of genuinely angry people. Uh, so the independent thing, even though I use the word to tribe, we don't have, there's no leadership here, there's no minutes, there's no organizational structure, there's nothing like that. It's just the word tribe just means those of us who, via a sort of a spiritual connection, an emotional feeling, a psychological discourse, have kind of found that we kind of all are similar in our own kind of way. But at the same time, too, we have different approaches. I'm a pagan. There are many. Dave is a Christian. We get on fine. John is a Christian. I'm a pagan. We're friends. It's lovely. There's no conflict there, and that's how we all need to be. And I think, no, your spiritual dimension exists beyond all those things anyway. Just like my spiritual dimension exists beyond me being a pagan. But the pagan software works best for the kind of fella I am. Where some other people, it might be Christian, might be a Gnostic, it might be a Theosophist, might be, any of those kinds of things. Like I told you, I have friends who are Satanists and they're really great people. Now, if you know what Satanism really is, it's really just about faith in, the LaVey Satanism. They're really good folks. It wouldn't be for me. Although I do like a lot of the Satanic Bible is a very interesting read. It's like Rules for Radicals. It's one of those things you should read to understand the others, not the other side, but to see get different dimensions. And I read the LaVey's Satanic Bible when I was about 14. And when you're kind of like a bit edgelordy when you're 14 and your heavy metal thing and all that and your punk rock thing, and I thought it was amazing, and I was like going around saying, "Oh, this is the way the world should be." But then I realized that what LaVey was doing, the Satanism was kind of like an inverse of Christianity, so it was still kind of Abrahamic after a while. So I said, like, the pagan thing is probably the best for me. It felt right, and I also like when I was in Sri Lanka, I would go down to the Hindu temples and stuff like that. And whenever I go to near a Hindu temple, I will go in and pray. Not a Hindu, because it's just similar. It's just I like that archetypal way of looking at the world, and that suits me. But there's no reason for all of, no matter what we are, to not, to put that to one side. At the end of the day, we're all the same spirit, basically observing itself without, we're all part of Maya, and put it that way. Uh, so I hope you have the kettle on because I've got a bit more to talk about. So I, it's a great thing to be able to see one of the reasons that I like the tarot is because it teaches you to see. I learn it from the Jungian point of view. I'm not interested in fortune telling or anything like that. I use it the same way the Jung used it. It helps you understand archetypes, and it helps you picture things in a visual way. And some people, this is comic books and graphic novels help them to do that. I just happen to like the tarot, and I understand it quite well. And this is why when you see these, you understand logos and symbols and so much better when you're able to stand away from something and look back at it from the other side. And you should always be questioning yourself. Like I've learned things from Christians, I've learned things from Gnostics, I've learned things from people from that end of the scale. I've learned an awful lot from Theosophists, even though I wouldn't be theosophically minded. And I've learned a lot from Freemasons. I've learned an awful lot from Masonry. Now, I'm not a Freemason, I can promise you that. I have been asked to join a few lodges, include like I'll even two lodges in the east coast of Ireland asked me to join, and I was asked to join the lodge in Norway. I politely declined in both cases, but it was not because of these videos I was asked to join. It's because I have a very good knowledge of the occult, and they like people who know a lot about and in masonry. They like people who have a good knowledge of that stuff. And so it was like that's why fellas who were involved in Masonic groups and interested in the occult elements just said to me, "Would you like to join?" There was There was one in Wicklow, one in Dublin, not the Grand Lodge of Ireland, and they you only get invited for there if you have the right postal code on your address in South County Dublin, and you have a certain income. But that's a real all boys club, that one. And the other one was in not Oslo, in Stavanger in Norway, and I you know but I declined in all cases because, like I said, I'd love to see our libraries, and I'd love to learn a little more, but I don't join clubs. I'm an independent person. So over the years, I've had people say to me, you're a Freemason. You're pretending to, or you're not one. I promise you, I swear to you, I am not a Freemason. I've no interest in joining Masonry, but I do find it interesting, and I've learned a lot from studying it. And like one of the people, I used to. Not that I believed it, but I wanted to know: is it true that all these the darkest things that you hear about them? Yeah, and some lodges, there's some nasty fucking shit goes on. It's just like all the occult. It's like just like and just like religion. There's Catholic priests who bugger young boys, and there's Catholic priests who go around and look after fellas on their own. Say some drug addict is dying of AIDS, and he got it from being a rent boy. And there's a Catholic priest who go around taking care of them, making them food, seeing if they're okay, getting the doctors, and they do it for the goodness of their hearts. There's both sides. It's there for good and bad. And it's the same with the Masons that are there who genuinely, doing it for the charity work. They do building ramps for old people's houses so they can get their wheelchairs up, to others who do it to get ahead in local politics, nerdy types and then there's others who are involved in hardcore elements of certain lodges that get up to the dark shit. So it's an individual thing. I will tell you what the ultimate secret is. The ultimate secret they're told when they hit the 33rd degree. You hear all people all say, "Oh, they're told." What the ultimate secret is, a God is revealed to them, and the God that's revealed to them is themselves. And the ultimate aspect of that is they're given proof of reincarnation. Now, how they're given proof of their own reincarnation, I don't know, but that's right. They're shown that death doesn't exist and you reincarnate, and that's when that's that. Although that's not unknown completely, because Mozart's letters to Haydn, sorry, he talks about that. He'd find when he'd made the 33rd degree in the Vienna Lodge that he had no more fear of death, and that life is an eternal ballet that continues on like the seasons. So that they learn, and that's been I've read that I've also read directly in other books that they believe in reincarnation. So that's what that big deal is there. Of course, that being reincarnated can give an evil soul tremendous power because there's no retribution. They can say I can do whatever the fuck I want in this life. And I think a lot of these establishment types are like that because I'll be just reborn anyway. There's no heaven to go to. Now, if you're a Christian, of course, there's a whole different attitude. You see, the Christian thing. You see, there's another school of thought to this as well. You know, and it does make a lot of sense, and I do kind of subscribe to it. Is that you get the afterlife you're expecting. So if you're from a Christian background and you believe in the heaven and hell and purgatory thing, what you're expecting to get when you die is what you get in the afterlife. If you're a Hindu or a pagan and your belief is reincarnation, you'll reincarnate. And this is quite a frightening and disturbing one. If you're an atheist or a scientific materialist and you believe there's no life after death, you'll switch yourself off. Now, this could explain so much that the NPC thing could be as a result of, I don't, now I'm not saying I completely believe this. This is the best description for me now. Is that these people don't have any souls. They're just literally robots, right? Flesh robots. And these flesh robots are a combination of a larger population on this planet than are souls available. And one of the reasons there's a limited number of souls is because of communism and Marxism, raising millions of people, whether it be in the Soviet Union or, the Eastern Bloc countries, not so much. China, very much. Korea, very much. To believe that there's no life after death. And they literally switch themselves off. So we have this surplus of meat, surplus of flesh robots. And that's why we have the NPCs. But we're seeing now. I have to be very careful here now. With the needlecraft, I'm hearing endless reports of, and I'm seeing with my own eyes, people who are gone. You see it. They drive like it started with a friend in England, an Irish friend in England. Tom, he lives in a cul-de-sac somewhere in the west of England, and he said suddenly, the last few weeks, cars were pulling into the cul-de-sac, and people were looking around in the car going, "What am I doing here?" And then I started to notice it myself. They suddenly pull off the side of the road. They suddenly pull off the side of the road, and they're like this. And I've seen them in cul-de-sacs as well. They don't know why they're there. Talking to a young lady who works as a waitress in a cafe, she said the last few weeks, you bring out two lattes to somebody, and they go, "Here's your lattes." What? You ordered two lattes? I did. Yeah, you did. You ordered two lattes. Oh, okay. I think that's a double needlecraft. It's switch. I'm telling you, I've seen the personality changes. This is not something I'm just imagining. I've seen it. I've seen the personality changes. They've either gone very, very quiet and into themselves, but there's a lot of general confusion. It's almost like early Alzheimer's or something. Don't worry, if this one backs up, it gets backed up on Odyssey. This one's automatic if it gets taken down. But this is very. It's so interesting to me that the NPC meme thing took off in the 2 years before, the 2 or 3 years before what we're going through now. And we're getting NPCs by virtue of double needlecraft. That was a foreshadow of the future. And you've seen my videos in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, I was predicting that there would be a lockdown over ours. I said it 10 years ago. There's numerous times you've all seen it. I wrote in the book Puzzling People that they were going to change the world and call it the new normal. And I wrote that in italics. So, and that's because it's not because I'm a seer and I have the ability to observe the future. It's because I have studied cycles because I'm a pagan. I understand there's not only cycles of nature, where the trees get their leaves and they die for the winter, and the animals hibernate and all that stuff, or the seasons change. But there's also cycles of behavior and consciousness and human behavior. And the cycle that we're in now first played out in 2008, 2009, 2010. But it was much less. It was lesser. And they were coming up to they were dealing with a financial collapse then as well too. But a lot of the stuff we saw then we're seeing now. The panic, the fear. Please save us at any cost. And it's come back again. But it's come back ferociously. Just like you would have a winter that would come back that'd be an exceptional winter. And that's how I know these things. I understand human consciousness in terms of cyclical, repetitive cycles. But things are different now. There's a document by the CIA. You look around, you can find that. The CIA use remote viewers. If you don't know what a remote viewer is, a remote viewer is almost like a seer. Like in pagan times, when the Abrahamics took over the pagan world, the pagan classical world, there was brutal suppression of anything that was called witchcraft, magic, sorceries, using auguries, all these kinds of things. Because that gave the individual person power. The individual person had power. So they could look at the behavior of birds. Like I'm sitting, where I live now, the buzzards have all come down from the mountains. There's loads of birds of prey and there's loads of carrion. That tells me that they're ready for a feast. In ancient times, our pagan ancestors would have done the same. They would have said, why are all the seagulls so far inland? And they would think about it and they would study the winter. They studied, oh, there'll either be a big storm out at sea or there's something happening inland that they need to use. And they would watch they would pay careful attention to these auguries, including the behaviors of people. And that's why the Second Temple rabbinical Christians, the first Christians, outlawed all kinds of magic, sorcery, and divination and auguries, oracles especially. Now, that's because they gave people an ability to see outside present space-time. And they wanted that power only for the church fathers. So they took their magic off them. Although it was practiced underground as folk magic, but the persecutions that went on for centuries were ferocious. Now, folk magic is a very beautiful thing. Like when we did the egg ritual a while back, and I told people to concentrate on the thing ending, and all this ending. Okay, it didn't come to pass. Of course, I wasn't expecting it to end the ping pong to end on April 9. But the primary purpose of that was to give people a sense of control, a sense of ritual, and a sense of spiritual identity by taking the egg, painting a sigil on it or an invocation on it, and putting it in a river. And everyone said it felt beautiful when they did it. Because it was my way of saying, look, you can take back control of this. Funny enough, it did kind of come true because Prince Philip died on April 9. And Prince Philip was the one who wanted to come back as an airborne virus. So there was the magic in that was true. It came to pass. It just didn't. Magic is just funny. A lot I had to do it. Some of you did showed your sigil on camera, so you kind of wrecked the process. I'm not blaming you. I think don't worry about it. But it's kind of like there's a poetic unfoldment in magic that these things happen. It's like all magic is the ability to affect reality proactively rather than waiting for some kind of happenstance or serendipity or kismet to make it happen. So like magic is the transformation of something from something that didn't exist. So like how many people have had a horrible end to a love affair and are broken hearted, but they wrote a pop song that made them millions, or they wrote a story about relationships and wrote a best-selling book. That's the magic. They've transferred it. People who work in magic, all they do is they take it and they do it proactively. And as a result, they develop these abilities to actually see the world in a very different kind of way than we have since the last 2,000 or 1,800 years of Christianity. And we all had this at one time prior to Second Temple rabbinical rabbis coming out of the Syrian desert and becoming Christianity. Now, the CIA have released documents in recent years saying that they believe that magic is real. Absolutely, they said magic is real. People can change reality through whatever the magical rituals they use, whether it be traditional folk magic or granny witches of the Appalachians or the witches of this part of the world, Europe. They can change reality, and they can alter reality or fix it in some way. And they said it's all real. It's all exists. It's just it's to do with the quantum world and somehow affecting it. And so the CIA took. You've all seen on the men is there the goat. They're the goats. That they took a serious interest in magic and paranormal and stuff like that. And where the CIA had its greatest results was a thing called remote reading. And remote reading is where they individuals have a special gift to be able to see into the future, or to see other, not see the future so much, but that they do that too, but into other parts of the world. And they started to have tremendous success during the Cold War with remote viewers who could actually say, a YouTube spy plane might be flying over some part of northern Siberia, and there's some very remote peninsula on the sea, see a construction site. And then they would tell the remote viewers about this construction site, and they say, what are the Soviets doing there? And the remote viewers would say things. They would go into like a trance or something, and they start drawing pictures of what was in there. And in one case, they all scored correctly. They said it was a submarine base where the submarines surface inside a building rather than at the coast in a dock. Another time they said it's an electric. It's nothing to worry about. It's a cold station. So the CIA have used these remote viewers and taken them very seriously for the longest time. Now that's what happened in the time of the Druids here in Ireland. When they needed information from the future what to do, a king, the Druid they'd kill a cow, and the Druid would drink its blood and go to sleep under an oak tree. And then when they have it, they would dream the future or dream the solution. And that's why often in the morning before you wake up, you have solutions to problems. And this is proactive. This is magic. This is the proactive um, change of reality. That's all it is. So it's nothing. It's not anything spooky. You think it is so much. It depends on the type of magic you're working. So apparently after 24, 25, they see nothing. That there's nothing after 24, 25. Now there's all kinds of ways of looking at that. First, when you hear they don't see anything a few years into the future. Now this ties in a lot of things like the Kali Yuga and the revised Kali Yuga that so many Brahmins and Swamis are now, claiming that the Kali Yuga, just like it's been affected. See, because these things are not fixed like they are in Abrahamic religions. You can change things. You can alter them. Like the Crowley's Aeon of Horus was supposed to last 1,000 years. It kind of ended. The two things ended the Aeon of Horus: the development of the internet and the resurgence of European paganism. That was kind of the end. There was no real need for Crowleyanity after that, and the Aeon of Horus, the crowned and conquered child of the new Aeon was kind of irrelevant after that point, because the Crowleyanity that he had developed to take that on, that world on both sides is kind of dissolved, and European paganism became popular again, and the internet changed human nature and consciousness. So, and the Hindus, some of the Brahmins and the shamans have said the same thing, that the Kali Yuga is probably going to end around 24, 25. And this is kind of like what's going on here. Now, there is a poem, the second battle of Moytura, there's the Bave's poem, the Bave's lament. The Bave was one of the three aspects of the Morriganna, the raven goddess. You had the Morrigan, the Morriganna, the Bave, and the Maca. The Maca is the goddess of the Maca is the crow goddess in that aspect of Ulster. You feel the Maca every time I go to Ulster. I feel the Maca. I feel when I was up at Braemore Stone Neolithic. That's the Braemore Neolithic complex is also a deep sky dark sky observatory for naked eye and small telescope astronomers. And in those hills there, you feel the Maca. Whenever I go to Ulster, as soon as I go over behind here towards Enniskillen, past Manor Hamilton and Leitrim and over to Enniskillen, and I go into Ulster, I instantly feel the power of the Maca goddess. Powerful. Her black wings flapping over the landscape of Ulster, through the hills and soaring. I feel that so strong whenever I'm up there. But in the Morrigan goddess, the raven goddess, the one who stood on the shoulder of Cuchulainn as he was dying in that beautiful statue in the GPO in Dublin. And like all pagan goddesses, as often a tripartite goddess, there's three aspects to it. Just like the country of Ireland has three aspects to it. There's even though it's Eru, Era, there's also Bamba and Folda. It's always a triple thing. That's where the Triskel and the three spirals come from. So the Morrigan, the crow goddess, has three aspects. The Bave, Badh, the Maca, and the Morrigan. And together they form the Morrigana. So raven goddesses, right? Now the Badh, Badh, was concerned with prophecy and lamentation. And the second battle of Moytura, which is supposed to have happened 3,500 years ago, there was two battles of Moytura. There was the first one was in County Sligo, and the second one was down around the Neal. You saw my documentary, my film about the pyramid down there. The place called Neal. A very interesting, very interesting part of the County Mayo, County Galway border. Down around Cong, not far from the village of Cong, a beautiful village of Cong. If you've seen the movie The Quiet Man, the film was made down there in Cong, and there's a beautiful abbey, ruins of an ancient abbey in the village itself, and gorgeous woodlands. It's one of the prettiest places in Ireland. But if you saw the movie The Quiet Man, that's where that was made in Cong. But down that area, the Neal, the second battle of Moytura was fought between the Tuatha Dé Danann and the Milesian Gaels. Sorry, the Fomorians, sorry. The Tuatha Dé Danann and the Fomorians, sorry. And the Fomorians were defeated by the Tuatha. And at the end of the battle, as the bodies lay strewn across the landscape, the Badh goddess appeared and issued a lamentation. And the lamentation was, I would see a time when men would go to bed with their own children, where men would seek lovers outside the beds of their own wives, where seas would not produce fish, where fields would not produce harvest, where it'd be a time of evil laws, evil ways, evil men, a dark time. And that would be the end of the next cycle. Very similar to how the yugas end in the Vedic or Hindu philosophy. Within the end of the yugas, you get the same thing. Pedophilia, they try to make it normalized. Men take lovers apart from the woman in their life. Men stray sexually. The violation of the innocence of the child is defiled. This is very common in paganism and Hinduism. As a cycle is ending, there is disease, and there is fields without produce. Now, you could take fields without produce today as all the GMO shit they give us, and this wheat that's crap and makes bread that gives you stomach aches or indigestion. That's a field without produce. That's poison. And so we're probably looking at the end of a cycle of consciousness. If the ancient Irish prophesied it, the Vedic prophesied it, maybe the Ragnarok could be also this, so the Nordic Vikings prophesied it, and here we are. And no doubt, if you dug around, I'm sure Native Americans, African Zulus, and other tribal groups would have said the same, or have the same. So it's coming to an end. And that's why the CIA remote viewers cannot see beyond 24-25. Now, this is this in terms of speculation, this isn't just a loaded gun, it's a fucking howitzer loaded with 45-pounder shells, high explosives. That's how loaded it is. Does this mean it's the end of the world? That an asteroid is coming from space? Could be. Does this mean the pole shift? I'm more and more coming to inclined to see that the Earth is probably got that if there was in terms of the polar shift thing, that the Earth is going to tilt at a 90-degree angle, meaning that Ireland will probably be on the equator, and your country will go 90 degrees up or down depending on what hemisphere you're in. That could be a major catastrophe. Well, it will be a major catastrophe. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the human race is over. Maybe the planet is over. But I'm more inclined to think that the reason why they can't see into the future is because the present abilities that they have now in terms of their consciousness is not able to grasp what the future holds. So they see nothing. It's like going out into the woods and picking up a grass snake or an adder and putting the snake in front of your computer and say, okay, type me a CV. You can't. I think they have the tools to actually see into the future. I think like you look at the tribe and you look at the Great Awakening or whatever you want to call them. Since people started waking up and how different we have become from mainstream society, from the wokeness and all this other stuff. We have evolved the way. I think normie world is over. And a part of me thinks that the ping pong double needlecraft is like their suicide machine. You remember Dr. Kevorkian and a suicide machine? I think so. I think that's what double needlecraft is. There was a horrible comment, sad horrible comment, left on one of my videos recently where a man said his friend's father and mother both had double needlecraft and they felt awful and they were telling their son, we don't think we're going to live much longer. They're embracing it. They're embracing the demise. And that's their world is over and our world is about to begin. Those of us who felt like outsiders all our lives, those of us who felt like oddballs in our own families, and we didn't fit in with our friends completely. We went to family events and functions and weddings and felt kind of something not right here. I don't really fit in. Those of us, hillside dreamers types. I think that we will prosper in the future. Now, in the meantime, they're going to try and blame the winter of malcontent upon us for not being double needlecrafted. But that will pass. That will pass. That won't be permanent. That will pass. And that's why the best thing for that is just to lay low, be quiet, and don't be going around shouting like, I'm still organic," this kind of thing. Just play your cards close to your chest when you're in public company, and let that roll by. That will pass, and we will probably have inherit a very nice world future for ourselves. And that's what's happening with Joe Normie. Joe Normie is leaving. There's all kinds of speculation in all kinds of spiritual traditions from theosophy and so on that the world splits in two every so often, and some people move to a new world where you have new ideas, levels of understanding, and new art and everything, and the others remain entrenched on the old world. Well, maybe that's what's happening to us, and maybe that's why they saw nothing ahead in 2025. But either way, this is definitely a spiritual battle. And again, the fortitude is a magnificent thing to pull upon now. Being stoic and don't lose your sense of humor. Don't let the song fall from your heart. But at the same time, too, without being a ninny or an obsessive, stock up on your food and get ready for 3 or 4 months over the winter of some nasty, dark energies brought down from above. You will be fine. Well, you will survive them, and you will get out of it without needlecraft. But you've got to hunker down. I would love to be wrong about this, but I think the next You know, October, November, December. Get yourself ready for those months. Get your vitamin D and magnesium and your zinc into you. Make sure you have all your food stored up. It's not that expensive and it's not that hard. And don't forget to have treats in there as well. Don't forget to have like chocolate bars. But things that'll keep a long time, like Yorkie bars keep forever. The Yorkie chocolate bars and things. The chocolates that are sealed in silver uh, wrap bags that will keep forever. Chocolate is a very long term superfood in its own funny way, but it's good for there'll be days when you in the darkness of winter where you'll want something to give you a lift. So a nice bar of chocolate and a cup of tea could do that. You can't store biscuits; they'll go stale or things like that. But you can store bars of chocolate, and along with your regular food, make sure it's best nutrition you can. There won't be a lot of food in the months that wild food in the months that we're in this. So try to, if you're a vegetarian, plenty of lentils and chickpeas, uh, kidney beans, things like that. Make sure to get lots of butter. I know if you're a vegan, you forget about it. But you're going to have a very difficult time. But lots of things. Make butter. Butter. If you still get your hands on milk, you can make butter very easily. Butter's a terribly easy thing to make. And keep yourself up. Vitamin D, especially in this part of the world, loads of it. And magnesium and the zinc. Very good for delivering the good stuff into your body. And stay off the booze as much as you can. Stay off the weed as much as you can. And keep yourself mentally ready. And be prepared for sadness, but know that at the end of it, everything will be okay. Uh, that's it. I mean, that's the whole thing. We just have to hold out and hold what we have. We've dug ourselves into a position here. We have our frontline trench, and no matter what the onslaught is, this frontline trench that we have, we will hold it no matter what. We will have a defensive strategic position, and we hold, and we hold it until we're ready to get up and march again. So look after yourselves, have a lovely Sunday, and don't forget to savor and smell the roses in life, because it's not, even when we face our darkest moments and these dark times, there's always some piece of light that can bring us comfort. So even if it's just like watching football on TV with kids or something like that, just do it. Okay, so look after yourselves. Have a nice weekend. Like I said, if you want to help me out, I do need that tripod. So there's a Patreon link. It's not. I won't have. I won't be able to put into this one till I get home. But if you look at my other videos, you'll see the Patreon link, and you want to put a fiver or a euro a month. I'll eventually, that all helps because it adds up, and it's for equipment and software and stuff to make BR313 a better channel. So look after yourselves. Take care, and I love you all.